This week on the OneCast, we are joined by Rick Bassin through, coming to you from the mean streets of Miami to the countryside of Raleigh.
That's a good one. That's a good one. Oh God, it's a toad, son. It's a toad, dude.
Let's go. I wake up to a little bit of drool on my pillow, feel like it's gonna be a bad day.
What is going on, OneCast fans? Welcome back to the OneCast, episode 85. We're joined by our good friend Rick, who we're going to bring on here in a second. I'm super excited for this one. This has been a long time coming. Rick is a very well-known angler in our area. He does a lot to prop up our local bait manufacturers and other social media influencers. Totally takes on the culture of anglers helping anglers OneCast at the time. But before we get into that, as always, we got to talk about those that make this all possible. So, Ben,
make sure you head over to OneCastFishing.com. They threw that to me and I wasn't quite expecting it. So yeah, go join the snagless revolution though. Get those snagless jigs, long neck hook, weedless nets, OneCastFishing.com. Use the code TheOneCast, save 10%, save a little bit of money, and go catch a big one.
That's right. And while you're online, head on over to CarolinaWatersNC.com. Check that shirt out that I'm wearing. Pete's got one on right now. He's rocking a Hobie hat. We'll talk about them in a minute. But Carolina Waters has you guys covered from UPF shirts to awesome gloves, neck buffs, and a wide array of apparel to suit your needs. So I know that it's been very brutal this summer in the dog days of that heat that we're trying to protect ourselves from the UV rays and all that stuff. Make sure you guys head on over CarolinaWatersNC.com. Use the code TheOneCast. You're going to save 20%.
and when you're done there, you got to protect the eyes. Got to protect the eyes from those same UV rays. When the conditions are right, you want to see what's going on in the water around you. I mean, we see it now when they're schooling, they're chasing shad. We can see them push those balls of shad up to the surface, even if they don't get close enough to where you could see them with non-polarized glasses. So it's super important. And why not use the best being Hobie eyewear. For 15 years, I wore another brand that starts with a C, and they were good glasses. Unfortunately, they moved some manufacturing around. They're not quite what they once were. So we were looking for some new frames. We got hooked up with our buddies over there at Hobie, and I'm blown away. The quality, the fit, the finish, just you can't say enough about them. The floating frames, you're never going to lose another pair of glasses in the water. We've all done it. So make sure you head to the link in our description. That'll take you to Hobie Eyewear, where you'll save 15% off your order. You end up getting a pair of glasses for about $83, something like that. Shipping's always free, lifetime warranty. We've had a few issues, tungsten weight to the eye. I lost a pair when I got ejected out of Mike Iaconelli's boat at the Elite Series event. They floated. So somebody on Lake Murray, if you find a pair of Hobie floating frames, just know they were mine. But they've always been quick to respond and get us taken care of. It's not just because it's us. There's testimonials out there from everybody. So make sure you use that link, get you some glasses. That's enough of me talking. I want to bring on a dude. I want to give you a chance to introduce yourself, Rick. But before, like the story of the first time we interact with each other, I think we'll break the ice. I know you're a little nervous, but it's one of the craziest stories, I think, because I didn't even realize it was you. I don't think the first time we met. I don't know if you knew it was me, but eventually the dots got connected. So just tell that story real quick.
What's going on, guys? It's Rick with Passing Through. I'm here with Pete, Trey, and Ben, the OneCast. We're live. Shout out marketing and production team. Shout out my mom. Rest in peace. One time for Miami-Dade County 305. We're in the building. Yeah, man. I would say like 4 years ago, I was out there at Robinson Creek. I was fishing, I believe it was with my son. And I was standing at the dock, right?
Mm-hmm.
The dock, and here comes from a distance, I can see this beautiful blue boat coming towards me. And as at the time, I don't know it was Pete, but afterwards we started connecting the dots, and it's an incredible story. Anyways, Pete was coming towards me, and he was casting his crankbait. I mean, everything was so precise, and I just stopped and I was just admiring him. I'm like, man, one day I wish I can crank just like that guy. So as he was getting closer, Pete said, hey, you mind if I pass? I'm like, yeah, sure, go right ahead, man. And he just kept covering the banks. And at the time, you were wearing a Cashin hoodie.
Okay,
it's the old Cashin logo with the C. And anyways, like I never forget that day. And you turned your boat back around. I think you might have been with your dad too.
Yep, he was down. Yep,
right. And then you left, man. And I remember I caught a bass right after you left. of that lay down there in Robertson Creek, and I started screaming, "Yo, I got one!" And I remember you turned back around and you looked at me. And you was like, you gave me the thumbs up, and that was that, man. That was a real magical day because number one, we crossed paths. 4 years later, I would say, a year and a half later, I officially met you at Cashin.
Yep.
And it was also a time where I didn't know, I wasn't aware about the Cashin brand, and I started Googling Cashin, and I came to realize if it wasn't for you, I wouldn't be throwing a Cashin rod. I
didn't know that. That's cool.
Yeah, I didn't know about Cashin, if it wasn't for you. And then fast forward, I started throwing a Cashin rod, and then I met your wife, Chelsea. I went to Cashin. I just remember you were back there one time, and it was like around Christmas, and I bought a rod, and we didn't have a rod holder. They didn't have any rod holders. And Chelsea, just give them the one from the Christmas tree. And, that's how I met Chelsea. And then I met you. And then everything just started like falling into place, man. And here we are today. I'm on the OneCast Live with the OneCast staff, with the crew, with Pete, Trey, and Ben. Shout out marketing. Shout out the production team. I got my wife here with me. So it's a great day. It's a great day here in
it is
Sanford.
It is. Yeah, that was fall. We were Robeson Creek's one of my favorite creeks on Jordan to Squarebill in the fall. They just get up on all those laydowns, all those rock ledges and stuff, and you can go through there and shellac them. And I remember Rick, I think some fish were breaking too further up the creek, and I couldn't get my boat back there. And he was like, "Hey, they're blowing up in there." And I'm like, "I can't get there, man." I'm like, "I can't get up there. It's too shallow."
Yeah,
so we spun. But I mean, that just goes to show we talk about treating everybody with respect, right? Like Rick was out there with his kid. I think you had two kids with you that day. Fishing off the dock. I could have just blown through there and not say anything, but I knew where he was fishing. I wanted to make sure I wasn't going to mess him up. And then it became a connection, and we're going from there. Here he is. Yeah. He's got a huge social following, does bank fishing, and we're going to get into it. I know we've got folks that ask questions. He's kind of like the bank fishing guru, but I want you to a little bit talk about how you got into fishing, because you grew up in Miami, if I remember correct. Obviously, we shouted it out. Not the most known bass fishing world. I know you've told me some stories about fishing the ditches and stuff down there, and canals, maybe not in the nicest neighborhoods and all that stuff. So just talk a little bit about how you got into fishing.
Sure. So I got into fishing, I would say like in 1992. From what I can remember, we got hit with Hurricane Andrew in Miami in 92. And that really, it changed Miami. It just, the streets were flooded. There was a lot of water. So we used to live right next to the Biscayne Bay. And, and if you understand Miami, how it is, if it rains a little, the whole streets get flooded. Everything gets flooded. Garages get flooded. And that was the case that day, right after Hurricane Andrew. So we didn't have any food. I went out there and I caught a fish with my hand. It was a mullet. And I brought it into the house. And my mom, she fried it. She didn't fry it. We made a fire outside and she cooked the fish, and yeah, since that day, I was hooked on fishing, and then in 1995, I didn't fish anymore after that, but like around 1995, we still lived next to the Biscayne Bay. And that's when the whole Chupacabra news came out. I don't know if you guys are aware of the Chupacabra. This is 1995. There was this thing going around, eating goats and stuff, So as a kid, I was very, that was something I was very paranoid about. And it really impacted me a lot.
He's like, it's just serious. Chupacabra, bro.
I've got to stop you there. And it's not about the Chupacabra, because I want to hear the story how you caught that fish with your bare hands.
Well, usually when everything gets flooded, it's like when the carp, after the spawn, when you see a lot of carp, the fish they were swimming in the streets. It happens a lot down there. The Biscayne, the bay rises.
Yeah, but I want to know how you jumped in and wrapped your hands around it. And
the way my mind is,
how many times did it take you to?
A couple times, because the way my brain is built, I'll sit there and I create patterns in my head, and I studied the fish moving around, and they come this way, they come that way. So when they went that way, I stood here, and when it came here, my hands were already in the water, and as soon as it came towards me, I just popped it up.
That's a natural born angler right there, just focusing on the little details.
Yeah. I look at I always look at the small details. I think the magic is in the details.
We're gonna get there. So 95 Chupacabra.
95 Chupacabra. They were.
I didn't think we were gonna talk about Chupacabra. So I'm super excited because I loved that stuff when I was a kid.
95 Chupacabra. It was all over the news. Everybody, be careful. Put your dogs away, your cats away, because the Chupacabra is coming out at night. Yeah, man, it was a big thing, especially in my wife's home country in Puerto Rico. It was mostly they were mostly impacted by the Chupacabra. Whether it was real or not, I don't know. But I'm 10 years old.
Real enough to you.
Taking no chances.
Taking no chances.
No chances.
So at night. So growing up in Miami, and between the 80s and 90s, it was the Tony Montana era was the real thing. There was a lot of crime. There was a lot of wars, turf wars, with different types of organization going back and forth about whose block is that. So this is something that when I lay my head at night, I can hear all the commotion. I can hear all the gunfire. It sounded like war, at night. It was nice.
War.
It was war. It was truly war, and I witnessed that as a child. So between that and then the news of the Chupacabra, so in the middle of the night when my mom used to go to sleep and my sister used to go to sleep, I used to sneak out of the house, and I used to just go to the Julia Tuttle Causeway, which is it connects Biscayne 36th Street to Miami Beach. So I'll go under there and I'll hide. That was like my safe haven. You understand? That's where I always felt safe. And I used to go there and fish at night or just hide. I feel that if the Chupacabra were to come and take me, that I can just jump in the water and swim away or whatnot. So that experience is what truly led me to fishing, and I became in love. The smell of the ocean, everything just seemed peaceful at night. I can hear the fishes, I can hear the breeze. So I've always been attached to fishing because of that,
So that ignited the passion. You were fishing at night by yourself in your safe space. We all had it when we were kids, right? Like some of us hid in our closet. I had a spot in the woods that was my, like, if I thought stuff was going
safe
down,
haven.
I went back there, had a little fort built, you know what I mean? Like we all had that. So you go out there and fish at night. And then did that eventually spread into you fishing during the day when you could?
Yeah.
And then obviously you were still doing it at night.
So when I used to go home and in the morning, like around when the sun will start coming out, when you start see daylight, I used to go home and my mom would be at the door.
She'd be not happy?
She would, an extension cord, I got the power. Put it like that,
Yep.
And hey, that's my mom, man. Those moments is what made me the man that I am today.
That's right.
And I don't blame her. I she was protecting me.
Yep.
And I was hard-headed. I've always been a hard-headed kid. I've always been my mind is always, moving, and I want to connect things and build things and be curious about things and go out there and figure them out myself. So, she was just being a mom. So I figured out that, my mom loved fish. So I used to tell her, here, come, you think I'm somewhere else? Your mom's mentality is you're out in the street doing something.
Yeah, she thinks you're getting involved in one of those organizations.
Yes.
Doing stuff you shouldn't have been. Yeah.
Right. And I took her to where I used to go. And next thing you know, it was me, my mom, my sister, we were fishing.
Yeah.
And she saw,
that's awesome.
Yeah, she saw how happy I was, and she whatever resources she had, she started buying me stuff to fish, a yo. Back then they call it a yo-yo. It's a round thing. You put it with string, you throw it.
Yeah.
One of those, and next thing you know, I had a fishing rod, and then the community just started coming together. There was a bunch of other people fishing there, and people will come by and they'll give me they'll let me have a rod or some shrimp or some squid, and that's how I've always embodied the community, and that's why I am the man I am today, especially in bass fishing, because people did that for me. They did that for my mom when I was a child, and I never forget that. So I always try to pay it forward.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
What were just on the topic of fishing down there in the canals and stuff like that? What there's definitely some things that can eat you down there. What
Absolutely.
were some of the craziest catches that you had as a child down there fishing?
Well, those canals in Miami, the waters are just like the people. Miami's a melting pot.
Yep.
You can go one block as Jamaicans, you can go the next block as Haitians, and then Cubans, and the waters are the same thing. There's fishes you've never seen in your life there. You catch them very easily. The fishing in Miami is not as hard as it is up here.
No, yeah.
Up there, down there is they'll hit anything. Up here is more strategic, more technique. You know,
Is it all saltwater fish for the most part? Or?
the canals in Miami is a mixture because those canals feed into the Biscayne Bay or the Miami River. You know, so it's a mix. It could be fresh water mixed with brackish water.
A lot of peacock bass down.
A lot of peacock bass down there. I know all about them. They're a hard fighting fish, but you know they're easy to catch, man. I can catch them with a fluke right now if we go down there.
Yeah,
yeah.
That's where I need to go. It's still on my bucket list.
I know I want to go catch.
You know, when we went to Puerto Rico 2 years ago, we went on a guided trip, and the only one to catch them was my wife. We caught one peacock bass. That was the only one she caught at. So
Because we go down there with that mindset, you know, with that technique. I'm gonna. It's actually easier than what we think, man.
Yeah, throw a hook out there and they'll eat it. Huh?
They'll eat a hook. If it's shiny, if it moves, they're gonna hit it. You know. But there's a lot of species out there, man. There's cichlids. There's a fish that call it an emo. It's like an orange fish with a hump behind his head.
Yeah.
The barracuda in the salt.
There's barracudas on there. Yeah, big barracudas. There's also now back then the alligator was on top of the food chain, but now it's actually the python.
Yeah.
So you can be in one of those canals swimming and there's a 14-foot python, you know, at your foot. So you just got to be very vigilant.
Yeah, we're not playing that game.
No.
So before we talk about you like moving up this way, you know, and we've talked about this before, you know, with a lot of the organizations that we volunteer with, Take Warrior Fishing and the nonprofit organizations, we talk about the outdoors providing that therapy and that safe haven that a lot of people, especially the veterans and first responder community, need. But that's just a small population, and so you found that being from that community, and you know, there's a lot of violence and stuff down there. What are some of the lessons that you learned from the outdoors and from fishing? That maybe you learned that you didn't know before you started going out there for your safe haven?
As far as lessons, as far as fishing, like
so like did it teach you patience and
absolutely,
teach you respect for the outdoor?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Actually, the patience part came mostly up here.
Yeah.
You know, fishing up here in North Carolina really eased me. It really slowed me down.
When did you come to North Carolina?
2017. About 2017, right?
About the same time we got here. So you fished that whole time. You never stopped once you got the bug, right? Like 95, you started. Well, I mean, just fishing in Miami.
You know, it was occasional because there's other parts of my life. You know, I had to become a man in my house.
Yeah, you got to work. You got to do all that.
No, as a child, I had to be that guy to make sure that my sister and my mom was good. You know, so there wasn't a lot of fishing at the time, but it was occasional. It'll happen. You know, I'll find myself next to a canal or on the Biscayne Bay. You know, and at the age of 14, you know, obviously, you know, my mom put me out the house, you know, because I was hard-headed.
Yeah.
You know, I wasn't a bad person. I was just making bad decisions, and I was just wanted to be out and play basketball with my friends or come home late, not follow the rules.
Yeah.
You know, so the best thing she did was put me out the house. I came back a man, you know.
Yeah.
So
that's a hard life lesson right there, right?
Some of us need that.
You learn real quick. I mean, I moved out of the house at 16 years old. I wasn't kicked out, but I moved out because I wasn't getting what I needed, and I thought I needed something different. Right. So whether or not you get kicked out or you move out on your own, it's a hard learn, and it comes at you pretty quick, right?
Very quick. Yeah.
But it makes you respect everything that you grew up with, whether or not it was an extension cord life or a nice leather belt life like I had. You know what I mean? Like that's just the way it was.
Yeah. So you got up here. Did you immediately jump into fishing when you got up here, or did you bust your tail working and then that stress level started to build and you were like, man,
no,
I need
not
something.
at all. So when I moved up here, it was, you know, the business, you know, the company I worked for, but I was also struggling with like anxiety and, you know, everything that sometimes in life, you know, we go through things and we like, for example, we lose people in our lives, or you go through a traumatic experience, and you're supposed to go to work the next day or the next week, you know, and we don't allow ourselves to heal. So it's gonna come a day in your life where it's 10 years down the road, it's gonna hit you, and that was the case. You know, that was the case, and you know, I started struggling with, and obviously that's how Basking Through was born.
Yeah.
I started struggling with anxiety, you know, depression, you know, and just fishing was my therapy. you know. So the reason why I got into fishing up here is obviously I was on Facebook one day, you know, and I was having a moment, you know, and I was scrolling and I came across the Big Coffee. You got
Big Coffee?
Big Coffee, and I guess at the time he was remembering his son, you know, and that's where the hashtag Catch for Bean movement came from, you know, and we'll talk about that because I like to bring awareness on that as well, because people ask me all the time, what is Catch for Bean, and we'll get there, and you know, and that I started going through his page, and this is why I tell people, man, always do the right thing because you never know who's watching.
That's right.
Yeah, you know, sometimes we get caught up in this and that and all this flashy stuff and just try to be someone we're not, and you don't know who's watching. You know, you never know who's watching or how you're impacting other people. So if you're a content creator, man, be a positive influence for the people. You know, put stuff out there that's positive, man, because you just don't know that might be bashing through that came across your page, and you might be the one to help them become better, you know?
Yeah. And I know Big Coffee, you know, shout out to you. I know you listen to us.
Shout out Big Coffee.
And I know that helped him get through the loss of his son, you know, very young son. And he's got a heck of a channel, and he spreads that positivity, and he's definitely one to follow if you don't. But so you saw him. Did you have some gear already? Like, did you have some rods and stuff from when you were down in Miami, or did you have to go pick some stuff up?
No, we came up here, but not much of anything. You know, we started all over again. This was a new beginning, you know, and we started all over here again. Fast forward, I started following Big Coffee, and that just reminded me what my passion used to be. It took me back to when I was a kid, you know, and how, you know, I might feel a way about something, but there's other people that might be hurting more than me. You understand? So that put me back in a place where I needed to be. And I grabbed my boys one day, and we were living here already, like 3-4 years. And people always told me, why don't you drive by Jordan Lake? Go to Jordan Lake. It's beautiful. And I'm not from here. I'm not just gonna go up the block if I don't know where I'm at, you know? And we just started driving by there, and we got off one day and we sat out there, and it just took me back. You know, it took me back to when I used to fish. And then I bought a rod, I bought a Shakespeare at Walmart, you know, and I just started going out there, and we started fishing, and boom, here comes Pete. And then I'm like, man, this, you know, one thing led to the other. It might be God, you know, it might be God did the reason why we're here. Sometimes I ask myself, man, how did I get here? I don't know. You know, we're just here.
Yeah, that's something I struggled for a long time. And we don't get into a lot of religion in here because I know it's a divisive topic, but
right,
you know, it shouldn't be. You believe what you believe in. I don't care. But like Chelsea was, and if you want to listen to my whole story, you can go to the Faith and Fishing podcast. I give my testimony. I talk about how I, you know, found my faith. But the more you look at stuff like that, like, it's hard to not believe that there's some higher power that's putting you where you need to be when you need to be there, right?
Right.
You saw me on there. You ended up at Cash, and you met Chelsea. Chelsea comes home and tells me about this guy named Pepsi Rick. I got no idea who Pepsi Rick is.
That's me.
Then I meet Pepsi Rick at the Raleigh show,
right?
And I'm like, immediately, like, I love this dude. And I tell you every time we talk, I'm like, I love you, man, like a brother. Like, you're one of those people that you connect with folks instantly, and you're genuine and you're honest. And if people aren't following you, they will after this. I promise. Our listeners will. But I don't want to get too far ahead of ourselves. So you picked up the rod, did some fishing, apparently saw me and made you go buy cashing. So
and you caught
listening. Yeah,
you caught a fish behind.
You caught a fish behind me when I didn't catch anything. So that's always good.
That's not true.
So when did you really, like, what triggered you to want to do more content? Was that around the COVID time when you put more into, because you had, I know you came up here, you were kind of in the service industry. You were in grocery stores, gas stations, doing that kind of stuff. So that was kind of hit, you know, to some extent when COVID happened.
And I'm trying to think. I think we, like, the first Raleigh show we all met at was probably 2021.
It was,
because they didn't. That was
right. The first year back.
Yeah, it was the first
COVID.
year back after COVID, and that was That was like old school. That my booth was the old school jig still, right? And the old walls and all that.
Mhm.
It's been a few
And you had
years,
started
right?
building your social media presence then.
He had
No.
started. I think.
Well, I had something going on YouTube. You know, I
Yeah,
was recording
yeah.
for YouTube.
That's right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and there was nothing else to do. You know, we're in the COVID era, and I'm not sure if I can say that on here.
No, I ain't say.
Yeah, but there was really isn't much to do. You know, it wasn't really much to do up here, and you know, I just wanted to document my experiences out there fishing, man. And you know, it was right around the time where, you know, content creation, social media. As business people, we got to pivot sometimes. You know, we got to kind of not be a part of the wave, but go with the flow. You know, and I knew that's something that I wanted to do, and I started filming for YouTube. I got a lot of old videos on YouTube. They're like 3-4 years old. Yeah, and then fast forward, like I at the time I felt like I was getting better, and I wanted to grow my following. You know, so the quickest way to do that is through Instagram and Facebook. More people. At the time, that's when shorts started becoming more popular.
Short form content.
Yeah, short form content, and you know, and I was able to identify these things. You know, so
yeah, we're not going to give all your secrets away, but
Yeah.
the stuff you have done to figure out some of the social media algorithm stuff is out of this world. And someday, if you want to share, we can do a whole. We're not going to get into today. We can do a whole series on that because. I mean, some of the stuff you and I have had conversations. I'm like, I never would have thought to do that, and you literally figured out how some of that stuff worked, and it shows how your mind worked because you wanted to figure out what made things tick. And you've helped. I think you've helped all of us grow with some of the
absolutely
some of the stuff you've given us. But as that continued to grow, obviously, I want to get into. We had a lot of questions about fishing, so I want to get into it. And I don't. Do you have a time? Are you like okay? Because this might go a little while. So obviously you didn't have a lot of experience, and when you guys have questions, just cut me off because I'm being Trey today, like I'm leading it. So, you didn't have a lot of experience freshwater fishing for bass when you came up here, right?
The largemouth species, yeah.
In North Carolina, if you can catch a bass in North Carolina, you can catch a bass in any state. I promise you, this is the toughest state. We say it all the time.
This is the state that will force you to have patience, and you talked about that earlier.
I did. I learned patience here.
Yeah.
What other than figuring out the patience, like what kind of resources did you use to learn behavior of fish and techniques? Did you rely on social media? I know you got a book you want to talk about. You call it your Bible, but what all did you dive into to help you kind of figure it out?
So a long time ago, we went on a field trip to. This is when I was a kid in Miami to the Everglades, the airboats and stuff. Mm-hmm. And, you know, they were talking about the Everglades. And this is where the first time I saw Doug Hannon, you know. Doug Hannon he was known as the bass professor in Florida. He has over 800 documented 10-pound catches, you know, and I remembered him. Like sometimes I just sit back and just start thinking, you know, and I remember him and I went back and I started researching him. You know, and his techniques and how he used to approach his day-to-day in fishing and how he used to what type of lures he used to use. And then that opened up everything else. You know, it goes back to him, what he says about, you know, the vibrations and the frequencies, you know, the lateral line. One thing that I started doing for sure is to understand the bass's lateral line. And I don't think people understand how important that is. That's like all their senses in one little line on their body, you know. And once I understood that, then that's when I started spending a lot of money, right? I started spending a lot of money on the baits.
Yep.
I went through all the baits I can. I go on YouTube, I see this guy throwing that, and I'm like, yep, I'm gonna go buy that. I'm gonna bass what everybody else does when they first come in. You know, I did that as well, and most of that stuff we still have it in a box. We have a box in the house right now full of old baits. A bunch of them I've given them away, right, to people that it might work out for them, it might not, you know. So, and you know, I invested the money. I caught my first bass after spending $1,000 on lures and stuff.
How long did it take you to catch your first bass?
Man, what I would say maybe like 8 months. I went 8 months.
And how often were you fishing in those 8 months?
Man, I was going every day.
That's North Carolina.
I was going every day. And the first bass I caught, if you go to Bell's Church, right? You have the
pier.
fishing pier.
Mhm.
If you cross the street, you go on the other side. You cross the street towards you can actually see where they stage the boats.
Yeah,
I don't know what that's-
marina.
The
The
marina.
marina.
Mhm.
Yeah, if you keep walking back there, there's actually a pond back there. It's a pond back there, and that's where I caught my first bass.
I feel like that was some secret juice you just
Yeah.
gave out. I didn't know there was a pond back there.
It's a pond. I mean, I don't know if it's got water in it or not, but you can go back there and check. You
It
got
had a fish in it that day, though, right?
it was a little dink. I caught it on a Gary Yamamoto red shad, the red shad pattern with the black and the red on the bottom.
Yep.
And that's it. I was happy, man. That's what I said. I'm onto something.
You were already fully invested, but you caught that first one and it was over.
It was over. That's it. And I think in bass fishing, people, they give up too easy. It's a hustle, man. It's not that easy.
But we see it on social, right? Like you'll see how many people say, I'm about to give up. I've been fishing. I've been out every day for the last 2 months and I haven't even got a bite. I don't think I can do this. And
you have to. You can't give up. You're already there. There's a reason why this fish is the most sought out fish in the world.
Yeah.
There's a reason why there's a whole store, a whole industry behind this one fish, because once you figure it out, it's gonna take care of you, man. Trust me. It's gonna reward you, and you're gonna graduate. You're gonna catch a 3-pounder. You're gonna graduate. It's like going from elementary to high school to college.
Yeah.
Every time you catch a bass, it's bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And
it's even better when you get to witness that with somebody too, for that hasn't had that and the light bulb comes on. I've had the pleasure of seeing that with Chelsea because she didn't bass fish when we first met. So, I would take her out and she would catch her first fish on a singo. And then she caught her first 3-pounder. And then we came down here and started doing different techniques. And quickly she started catching bigger fish than I do because she has way more patience than I do. But to see the light bulb click as you start figuring things out, oh, that's what I need to do. I need to leave it here a little bit longer. I need to do that. And what's really cool about your social media, and I always loved, was you can go back and you can see those light bulb. Every time that light bulb came on,
wow.
You've got a video. And it's super
evolve,
cool,
right?
Because you documented that, right? Go back on your old videos, and there's nothing wrong with any size fish. I'm not size shaming fish, but you started catching those 1.5 pound, 2-pounders, right?
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden you're catching
boom,
3-pounders, and then you're catching 4-pounders, and then you're catching 5 and 6 pounds.
7, 8,
And it's
9.
you start to figure out the different areas, the different baits, the different techniques.
Every bite, every fish tells a story, man.
100%.
Every fish, every bite tells a story.
Y'all are hearing it here. We
I-
say it all the time, but this is from somebody completely different.
That's
Yeah.
a t-shirt. Sorry.
Yeah.
Stop skinny shame.
Size shaming.
Yeah. And with a skinny bass online.
We should even put, Eric, you cut that out because 6 seconds steal it. No,
A bass, you should put big or small. A bass is still a bass.
That's
it
right.
is. You're absolutely right. And we get caught up with the dinks and it's oh, it's just a dink, but they're just as fun to catch.
But I want to say something, and my wife could tell you, man, when I get latched onto something, I'm not going to let it go until I figure it out, man. Whether it's I'm fixing a car or, I'm raking the yard. If it's 5 o'clock in the afternoon and I'm cutting my yard, we're going to stay till 3 a.m.
Yeah.
until the yard is cut. They're going to have to call the police, but I'm going to finish it.
What about a Rubik's Cube?
Rubik's Cube?
Yeah.
Yeah. Have you ever done a Rubik's Cube?
My son has. I'm not that smart, but he can do it in 3-4 seconds.
Man.
Oh, he's
I gave up a long time
Yeah,
ago.
I think I tried one for about 7 minutes and I peeled the
I don't
sticker
know. I don't know how long. I don't know how long it takes him, but I know that he can figure it
Yeah.
out.
That's awesome.
I want to go back to your first fish catch.
Yeah.
You remember that?
So your first was your wife with you that day?
Which one?
The
The
bass.
red
The
shad, the
bass.
first
The
bass.
Oh, my son.
Your
Your
son
son?
was with you?
So your wife's not on camera right now, but if you were to speak for her, what do you think you looked like when you came home after you caught that first bass? What did it do to your mental and emotional state?
It was my mom made it. I did it.
Yeah.
I succeeded. Yeah. The $1,000 I got a bass back. The $1,000. We're gonna get into that. We're gonna get into how simple it truly is, man.
Yeah.
Everybody.
I wanted to ask that because, I think a lot of times, anglers, especially guys on boats and stuff, we take these fish for granted, right?
Absolutely.
We catch hundreds of them or thousands.
It's
of
not
them.
even just for granted. We also give them too much credit.
And we give them too much credit, but from the outdoor therapy perspective, it's such a beautiful accomplishment when you've been working so hard at something, whether or not it's catching your first bass bank fishing or finally figuring out how to use your electronics on your boat to target that species, or shooting your biggest buck that you ever shot before in the wood. It does not matter what it is. It's a sense of accomplishment, but it's also healthy for a relationship, right? So, and that's why I ask you like what that did, because I know I come back such a happier person. Even if I don't catch a fish, I'm just on the water, right?
And
Do you think she would have been as happy if she knew how much more money he was going to spend?
No, I think I
don't think mine would have been.
after all these years, I was brought here for a reason today.
Yeah.
She's here, and I think she will better understand why I go out there. You know,
Yeah.
why she doesn't give me a hard time about it. She knows I'm healing. I'm out there truly
That's
healing,
right.
and I'm out there, working on myself, because I'm gonna, whatever it is I was going through at the time, I'm gonna leave it at the lake.
That's
I'm
right.
gonna come back home a different person.
Yeah. So you told us you were struggling with some anxiety, depression stuff. Did the name Bassin' Through come about because you were bassing through those issues? I always wondered how you came up with that name.
Well, yeah, it was supposed to be another name, Passing Through. It was supposed to be something bassing. Just we came up with a bunch. Catching the bass or something, Catching the Bass TV, and then I think was it you or was it you? You're like, well, why don't you call it Bassing Through? And I was like, well, that makes sense. Everything that I'm going through right now, I'm bashing through my pain. I'm bashing through a bad day. I'm bashing through, an anxiety episode, and that's how bashing through became.
I never
Bashing
put
Through.
the dots together, but that's some powerful stuff there. That's like the perfect name.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
That's
it's
awesome.
incredible.
It really is.
It's incredible. That's all I gotta say, man. It's everything just started happening. It started connecting. But I don't think a lot of people understand how much what's the word I'm looking for, influence and impact you and Chelsea have had in this community as well. Because if it wasn't for, and I'm gonna say it, you're gonna see me how I truly feel. I'm not gonna sugarcoat anything. If it hadn't been for me seeing you on Robinson Creek and the hoodie, like marketing is everything.
Yeah.
A shirt, something you're wearing, it people see everything. And if it wasn't for that, I wouldn't have bought a casting rod. I wouldn't have went and started cashing and met Chelsea and said, thank you guys, I love you all. Then I met Zach Scott. Then I met Hunter Glosson. And then it's not about cashing or the brand anymore. It's about my friends that work here now. They work here, so I'm gonna support them.
Yeah.
So I started making content because of my connection to me being from another state, me coming here, meeting people that made me feel that I was back home. Now I feel the responsibility that I've learned something new, and we're in a digital era, a content creation era. Then I found out I wasn't aware that you were the marketing lead for Cashin. I didn't know that the whole time I was posting videos that Chelsea was in charge of the social media.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I didn't come to learn that until after the fact. And then when I learned that after the fact that you were in charge of marketing, I started going even harder because you worked there. I felt that I had to bring my friends content, a product to continue to move the brand that she's representing forward. You understand? The same thing I did for the OneCast, for OneCast Fishing, and then I started doing content for one. I met you. I just felt
Raleigh.
one thing my wife can tell you, man. I'm loyal, man. When you have me as
Yep.
a friend, you have me as a friend. Where loyalty with me, I come from nothing. Loyalty to me is everything.
Yeah.
You understand? And I feel even through good times or bad times, that's it. You're in my circle of friends, my circle of influence. I just feel the responsibility to be there when my friends need me. That's that.
You let me give you a really cool story. So I think I met you at the Raleigh show.
Yep.
But you did something this year that influenced probably one of the more respected anglers in the community, which is Hal Abshire, right?
Oh, Mr. Halafshire, that's
Mr.
that.
Hal. Right.
Yeah, I like
So-
Hal. I was a great guy.
Best dash and fishing.
So you, on your own accord, like you did that amazing video at Take a Warrior fishing event that we had on Sharon Harris, but you also attended a lot of the weigh-ins at some of the local events like the Piedmont Bass Classics, right? And that's where I got a phone call coming home from work, and Hal said, "Hey, do you know a guy named Bassin' Through?" Obviously, he didn't put the real name in there. And I was like, yeah, absolutely, man. I know Rick. And he's like, he did the nicest thing today. Like, asked me if he could record me coming up with my boat and everything like that. And, and I was like, yeah. And you know what he did it for? Just because he wanted to, because he wanted to help everyone out and like get the brand out there and just create content. And, like that is just one small anecdote of like somebody making a phone call to me who met you through a Raleigh show. And that's how we talk about like building that culture, right?
Community.
It costs you nothing. It really costs you nothing, right? Time and effort. But at the end of the day, like there's no price tag you can put on that. And so you impacted one of our friends' lives, right? And now he's a friend of yours,
a friend of mine,
and we can reach out to each other at any point in time and like continue growing that network of people. So it was really cool to see that happen this year because it caught me off guard. And I was like, when he's like, "Do you know Bassin Through?" And I was like, "Oh no, what happened?"
I didn't even because I've seen him on your show, the name Hal Lapshire. I've seen, but I didn't know what he looked like in person.
Yeah,
so that day, so a couple of days before the Piedmont Bass Classic, Doug Phillips, he wrote to me. He's like, "Hey man, it was the first flight."
Yeah.
He goes, "I know you're a content creator. Can you come by and just like shoot a video to bring awareness?"
Yeah.
And that I didn't even see the message that day. And I was working because I work in Sanford. I work in different areas out of city. And I just happened to go by Cashin that day. And Doug Phillips was sitting there. And he looked at me like, in his mind, he's like, I think I just wrote to you, And I was wondering why, I didn't connect it until after the fact. And we sat down. When we sat down, he was like, "Yeah, man, I didn't know I didn't know he would manage the Piedmont Bass Classic. I wasn't aware of that. I didn't even know what the Piedmont Bass Classic was. Yeah. Honestly, I didn't know there was such a big tournament on the lakes out here.
Yep.
Until that day. Until I was like, absolutely, man, I'll come by and shoot some content, And it helped me because it was the first time I've ever done. Most of the things that I do, that I show up and do, is because I want to push myself to be a better content creator, a better editor. So it was something new for me. And he already had me in mind, and I show up, he's there, and then I go make videos. And I met Hal Lapshire that day. He actually he was putting his boat on the
trailer,
and he sprayed like it was not intentional. He didn't know I was behind him, but he sprayed me with like,
come on, Hal.
No, it's okay. It was like that moment was the nicest part of the video.
Yeah.
I was able to transition from him spraying my camera with his motor to another slide, so it was perfect.
Man,
I don't look it's like peach. It's like these filas that I'm wearing right now. The filas I'm wearing right now. This is actually the second time I'm wearing these filas right here. And it's things in life happen for a reason.
The first time he wore them, I spilled coffee on him.
Did he really?
Yeah.
No, it was not
At
his
the Raleigh.
It happened. It was like unintentional.
He's like, these shoes are 23 years old and I've never worn them till today. And then
it was,
you know what? And that goes back to you saying like you're loyal because
he didn't kill me.
Yeah,
it happens. Like those are all the things that they happen for a reason.
Yeah.
And the coffee stains are still there. I left them. It's like it was meant to be there. And I didn't bother with it anymore.
So let's get into some of the actual bank fishing stuff that you wanted to talk about. You talked about you said we were going to talk about it later, how easy it is, right? In some aspects. But we definitely had some messages from some of our followers about the way that some of the resources that you use. How do you choose your areas, things like that. And so that was a cold water opening. Don't worry, folks.
Liquid death.
But I want to go back to that. So using the foundation, reading that book, when you first got up here, you were skeptical on going to find places to fish. You didn't really want to run up the block, right? But since you have been here for an extended period of time, first and foremost, where do you typically like to fish the most as a bank angler?
As far as what, like where in the lake or like what?
Where in general?
Yeah.
Like
wherever is accessible.
Okay.
Wherever is accessible, where I can park and walk, and it's designed for people to go out and fish. You know, I don't fish. If you look at my videos, I don't fish in a lot of places.
Right.
You know, it's just like the same 3 or 4 places.
Okay.
You know, and that's why I think I have a lot of success, because since I go to the same places all the time, I can get on like on a bite window. Like I know at a certain time they come up and they eat at that time, and I'm there. Most of the times I'm there. I'm not there for a very long time.
Okay.
You know, it's part of taking notes, you know, and studying the fish. So
When you started looking for places to fish, what were some of the resources that you used? Were you looking
just
at
Google?
just Google?
Yeah. Google, and just people telling me, you know, Jordan Lake. I see the signs obviously all the time. Jordan Lake. It wasn't something that I really cared about going to. You know, until I started, like, I felt the need to starting to go fishing.
Yeah.
You know? So I usually go to Bell's or, you know, just off of 64.
Okay.
You know, just the Google, man. You look at Google Map and you see there's, you know, water, and I just drive by there and I feel like I can go in there, and then I go and I fish it.
When you're starting to prepare for that trip, like, what are some of the resources that you always pack with you to take on that trip?
Just my rods. You know, I have my rod runner with me. This is one of the biggest tools I use. It's a rod holder and a carrier. I have my rods. This is a Rod Runner Express. It's designed for 3 rods. And I take that. I take my fishing bag. Just again, I've invested a lot of time.
Yep.
And I've already invested a lot of time and resources and finding the right lures that work for me, you know, and the rods and stuff like that. It's not much. It's just simple.
Yeah.
I'm a simple person, and the one things that I usually is my friend Willie Burns. He introduced me to the CMAP. I don't know who owns that. I don't know if it's Lawrence or
Lawrence, yeah.
Yeah, that's something he introduced me to. I keep that on my phone, and I just use that to just look at the contour lines. You know, because you could be standing right here, and then you know 10 feet to the right, it can be 3 feet, and then, you know, in certain fisheries it can go to 10 to 15 feet.
Yeah.
So that's an area that I want to target. I look at the contour lines. As the lines are tighter, you know, there's a shade area. So I know that there's a consistent depth right there, and that's an area that I'll target just using the CMAP.
Yeah, I need to do a better job at that, because that app on your phone can be extremely handy, even when you're on a boat on the water.
Yeah,
you're not always having to look at your graph and stuff.
What of
Go ahead.
You've got your rod holder there.
Sure.
So 3. So you probably have at least 3, probably 4 rods you take with you every trip. What do you have rigged up? Like, what are your go-to lures for bank fishing here?
I try to stay with just based on my, you know, my experiences in fishing, just craws. It's mostly craws. You know, this is something I learned from Willie Burns, my friend Willie Burns. If there's 3 shads, and this is how he feels, and I agree with that. If there's 3 shad and a worm and a craw, a bass is always going to hit a craw first, according to him.
Yeah.
You know, so I always throw mostly a craw, just a soft plastic. That is my go-to, is just
jig, Texas rig.
A jig. I don't Texas rig a lot. Usually my go-to is really a flipping hook.
Okay.
You know, I use the Gamakatsu heavy finesse flipping hook. That's the one I feel comfortable with. There's many others out there that I failed with, and just one particular hook, I've had success with it. You know, so I throw that.
Using a bullet weight too.
I use a flipping weight. You know, I stay really light. That's one of the things I really do since I fish shallow, is I stay light. You know, a 1/8 or a 3/16. You know, I stay really light because it makes the lure look more natural. Yeah, it gives it more of a natural movement, a natural. I guess when it's coming through the water, it looks much more natural, and it glides over like structure or rocks. You're coming over a rock, it looks more natural as you're coming over a rock, and then you pause, and then it falls nice and like a bait fish, a craw will. Yeah.
So do you always have 3 craw baits, or I know you like the Ned rig too? We see you throw that a lot. Do you typically keep a moving bait of some type with you, or do you just stick to the?
Now during top water, obviously, you know, I always have a popper tied on, or a spook. You know, a spook or a popper during this time of the year. I like the popper better because you can target specific areas. A lay down, you could just throw it there and, you know, just retrieve it back. A spook it might have its time and place. I think it does have too much movement, and in a pressure situation, now that these fisheries are pressured, I think that just be staying more natural and less movement is better.
Yeah.
At least that's what I think.
No, I agree with you on that one. I think we see a lot of changes going on the lakes. I mean, you talked about COVID. We had an extreme amount of pressure during the COVID timeframe. And honestly, we always talk about growing the sport. Professional anglers talk about growing the sport. That means more people on the water, right? That means we're going to have to change our techniques and change the way we target these fish. But you talked about how simple it can be by understanding the fish.
Correct.
One of the questions I have for you, you fish the bank. The beautiful thing about being in North Carolina is you're not so far north to where you can still fish 365 days a year.
Correct.
Do you fish in the dead of the winter?
I do. That's my favorite time to fish. Like winter is my favorite time.
And then obviously in the dog days of the summer too.
Well, this summer, we had some changes in our lives, and I couldn't get out there and fish as much as I wanted to. But I believe that this is just my opinion, and it might help someone. What you do in the summer, you do in the winter, and what you do in the spring, you do in the fall.
Yeah.
Amen.
Yep.
Yeah.
So are a lot of anglers wrong when they believe that there aren't fish on the bank 365 days a year?
I agree. I agree. They're around, and fish got to eat.
Fish got to eat.
And I believe that I'm a firm believer of like what Doug Hannon says, that a big bass's domain is the shallows.
Okay.
I believe a big bass hang out in the shallows. And it makes sense because there's like forage, there's bait fish. It's easy access to eat. So that's just my approach. My approach is always shallow. I like to stay within 3 to 7 feet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, one of the areas that you fish, and this is just because I've seen your YouTube videos, and Pete and I had a heck of a year in that area. How many fishermen come in while you're fishing the bank and don't catch the fish that you catch? Like you catch them after, like you did with Pete, right? You caught a fish after Pete went down the bank. Does that happen a lot?
If it does, I don't really pay attention.
Yeah.
I'm not, I'm there to work on myself.
Yeah.
And to enjoy, to catch a bass.
Well,
it's possible because there's boats that pass me.
And that's awesome. You can just tune that out.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what anyone else does out here. It's just,
I really don't, like what other people are doing. Obviously I keep up with people just so that I can learn, because you might, when I watch someone is to have a takeaway. Perhaps there's something that they're doing that I can learn from, but other than that, I don't really, if somebody's fishing there, a boat there, I'll just move to the right or to the left and let them do their thing,
The reason I asked that question is because I was always curious about bait itself, right? So we're constantly throwing at the bank and dragging into the deep.
Right.
But are a lot of bait, like natural baits, trying to get to the shallow instead of going to the deep, right? Like escaping from the fish or going up there to bury underneath a rock or something like that, which you've seen that. I've seen it in videos a long time ago where used to be legal for you to get out of your boat and then go sight fish for a fish, right? Like, I don't know what format, but even so, you could still do it just recreationally fishing. You have the ability to sneak up on a fish from the bank, and you have the ability to put that bait in different areas with different presentations from the bank than you do a boat. And that's why I was wondering, does it seem like it generates more bites from a different perspective?
I think so. As a bass boat, I think it should be 70-30, man. 70 casting towards the banks, and then maybe 30% offshore.
Yeah.
Because there's fish. Some fish love the country, some fish love the city. Some fish love to live on the 10th floor, some love to live on the first floor. And I'm a firm believer that bigger bass, they live on the first floor. They're not gonna buy a condo on the 10th floor. They're not gonna go up the stairs. It's gonna be somewhere where they can just go one flight of stairs, go grab their food and come back.
Yeah.
Those transition access to deep water without much movement. That's everything we look for, right? And he's talking about, kind of the same thing. He's looking for those areas when he's looking at a sea map on his phone, right? You're looking for those quick breaks where your contour lines are super tight, because that fish only has to move 2 feet to move 6 feet in water depth.
Yep.
Correct.
So they can slide up and down, oxygenated, not as oxygenated, foods here, foods there, all that's super important. But
I agree.
One of the questions somebody asked was, are there any techniques that you found that just don't work from the bank that you see people doing?
Cranking
Stuff. Yeah.
Maybe a square bill, because we're shallow. But like throwing a crankbait that dives down a DTA or a 10 or 6, to me, I don't really. I just maybe I should try it more. Maybe I get a better result, but I've never had success with throwing a crankbait off the banks.
Yeah.
But
sense. Everything
everything else works. A spinnerbait works.
Mhm.
You're mimicking a bait fish or a craw or, it's natural forage. I throw it. I don't throw a crankbait. I don't throw a buzzbait much. I need to do that. I need maybe work on my crankbait techniques, but those are 2 things I really don't throw: a buzzbait and a crankbait.
Yeah, Mikey was listening to this. He'd be like, "You don't
He's
throw a
having-
buzz
both
bait."
Mike's having a stroke right
But
now.
I mean, like you got, buzz baits are very specific. Like I feel like buzz baits are, if you can't parallel the bank very well from the bank
It's
or
not
from a
effective.
boat, it can be ineffective, right?
agree.
But I mean, you never
I don't
know.
throw a frog enough. I should throw a frog.
Yeah.
But, those are different setups that I don't have. The heaviest rod I have is a 7.6 heavy flipping rod. That's one of the main rods that I'm using right now.
Okay.
Because I have like issues hook setting, my shoulders. I actually had to teach myself how to retrieve with my left and hook set with my right, because it was. If you look at my first videos on YouTube, I'm reeling with my right and hook setting with my left.
Okay.
But that was really uncomfortable for my shoulders, so I had to teach myself. But the heavy flipping rod is actually my best rod. I love that rod.
Absolutely.
I call it boomstick.
the boomstick.
boomstick.
So
I like it, man.
Something else I was, when we were having that discussion about, having success there from the bank, and that we know as boaters, like a lot of times, especially unless it's during the spring or fall, a lot of times we just ignore the bank. Or if we do, like, we'll hit this lay down and then we'll get a trolling motor on high and go like 50 yards at the next lay down. Where like from the bank, you don't have that luxury. And probably what I would imagine, you're out there fishing, you're dragging back your craws, you're hitting a lot more stuff that we can't see under the water.
correct, because your
Patience, and you're just finding things that the fish are going to be on that we just don't take time to find because it's not maybe at the, an efficient way to do it.
I agree. I think from me reading, because I like to read into things a lot. I just like to educate myself on things. And from my understanding, electronics, they go to a certain depth, right?
Yep.
You can look at what's 2 feet of water or 3 feet of water. So yeah, I do have an advantage. I'm bank fishing. I see things that you might not see, like you guys are saying, and patience.
Yeah.
I'm fishing much slower. The only luxury I don't have is that I'm not allowed to cover water as fast. I walk a lot, man. I'm out there. It's a grind.
Mhm.
When I go out there a full day, because most of the time I don't be out there a very long time. But there's times that it'll be, I can't figure them out. And then I'll be out there for many hours. And I gotta walk all the way around. But once I find them and once I'm on the bite window, then I can come back the next day at the same time. I have the same success.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What is the biggest North Carolina fish that you've caught so far out of Jordan?
Honestly, I don't weigh my fish because I don't.
I mean, you can make up anything you want right now.
No. You guys, you can
17-pounder outer.
You can make up whatever you want, man. But we've been in fishing. We're fishermen. We're anglers. We know we can see a fish and be like, that's a 5.
Oh yeah.
You can put it next to the camera and be like, that's a 3.
Yeah.
The biggest bass I've ever caught, and it's the one that I'm wearing a blue shirt. When I caught it with the net rig with the biz bait, that's with the baby biz bug. I don't know what that weighed. I just know it
Its
had
eyes were bugging out.
Yeah,
Huh?
it
That was a big one.
Big one.
Yeah, I know. Usually when they have the big eyes, that tells you that's a very that's larger, more than normal bass.
Yeah.
So
So
I don't know how much that weigh. What do you guys think it weighed?
I'm gonna say 7+.
I'd have to go back and look, but
If
if
its
it
eyes
was,
were
it was
bulging.
over.
If the
7
eyes
for
are
sure.
bulging, 6+ for sure.
6+.
Yeah.
It was. I remember that one. That was a big fish.
Yeah.
Let's talk to a new angler, right? So they're like, hey, bassing through, I want to go and I want to start bank fishing. What are you going to tell them to go to the store and pick up just to get started?
If they don't have experience with bait catcher, just go with a spinning setup.
Mhm.
You know, something medium heavy in a 7-foot range, medium heavy. You know, with a fast action. I will put braid on it. I like to put 10 to 12 pound braid on my
Spinning?
my spinning reels, and then like the same amount of pound test on the leader. You know, I would just tell them go get a medium heavy rod, 7 foot. It can be any rod, a Shakespeare. We all started with a Shakespeare or an ugly stick. You know, put a 12-pound braid on there, and then learn how to tie a leader or use a swivel.
Yep.
The same thing, 10 to 12 pound braid and a 12-pound fluorocarbon leader.
Okay.
And if you don't know how to tie a knot, you know, YouTube it or watch the OneCast. They talk about that many times, and or just use a swivel.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
What about bait selection?
Bait selection, I would have them start with obviously with a Texas rig.
Mhm.
That's the most common rig is the Texas rig. If you're around grass, throw a worm. If you see rocks on the banks, if you see one rock on the bank, there's more rocks somewhere in front of you.
Yeah.
I look for those clues as well when I'm walking the banks. I'm always looking down. There could be like a small transition. You know, there can be a rock here, and you know there can be some sticks over there. Those are the little clues you need to look for.
Absolutely.
You know, and obviously cover water and cover as much water as you can, and until you find those transitions as you're walking the bank, and then cover those areas, and then next thing you know, you're gonna be onto something. You know,
Absolutely.
you're gonna get a bite. Something's got to happen. Something's gonna bump your lure. You know, it's telling you that it doesn't want it. There's something you will know if something is there, and you need to target that area more. Like the bass will talk to you.
So you want to cover water slow.
Cover water slow.
Yeah.
I suck at that.
Bassing through is talking about bassing thorough. So make sure that you cover the water, right? Don't look at me like that, because I've heard people say, is that bassing thorough? No, it's bassing through. Learn how to read. But, you know, don't get discouraged, though.
Don't get
right?
discouraged.
Don't
quit.
get discouraged. Don't give up. Because every time you don't catch something, you learn something, right?
Right.
And you talked about the lateral lines on the bass and the bass behavior and what they like to eat and all those types of things. You're learning what the bass don't want.
When
Right.
when do you think you picked up? So you moved here in 2017.
Yeah.
When do you think you went and got that rod and went out and started fishing?
Which
Like what year? Was it in 2017 or?
I don't know. I gotta look at my YouTube. If you go look at my YouTube channel,
Just give me a rough guess. 6 months, 8 months
Or-
after
17, 19, 21, like 20, right around the
COVID.
Yeah.
So like end of 2019, early 2020.
just about, or no, a little after 21, maybe 2021.
So and then you went 8 months without catching a bass.
Yeah.
Fishing every day.
fishing.
If I see anybody crying about I've been out there for a week and haven't caught anything yet, I'm gonna be like, I'm tagging my
Yeah,
boy. Be
I
like,
started.
you want to talk about dedication?
I started documenting. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you
No,
off.
you're good.
I started documenting my experiences after I learned how to catch. You know, you're gonna catch your first bass, and then that lure will be your confidence lure for a long time. You know, and then one thing we tend to do is we tend to stray away from what is working for us. You know, continue to use that lure, your confidence lure, and then, you know, every now and then throw in another lure and then gain some confidence with that lure.
Yeah, that is that's something I think we all struggle with as anglers, is that we have our confidence baits that we've had success on. We really like throwing them. It's just how we like to catch them. But then there's other, like, we want to become more versatile to try all these other baits out, because there are situations that they may apply. But then sometimes we go chasing these other things and we lose sight of that would actually, you know, works for us. It's always a balance of trying to strike. Yeah, I want to learn something different, but I want to know it works. And how do I know if it's working? If I'm not catching, it just takes time. So but it's fun to be able to go out there, and there's just a million different techniques and ways. as you talked about, like you have an entire box of stuff that you went through that does
$1,000
yeah, that you have found that have not worked for you.
for a little bass. It was my first bass. And, you know,
And you caught it on a sink, yeah.
caught it on a single,
Yeah.
you know, and then I went to the Raleigh Expo, and then I started researching. I started researching again the lateral line and how like I started to read about the bass. Like, they don't hear, they don't this, they don't that. Like, whoa, what are they using for GPS? The lateral line. And then I started, you know, reading more into it and how it picks up, you know, like vibrations and frequencies, and you know, and Doug Hannon talks about it. You know, he says that some lower frequency vibration will attract a bass. It will bring the bass to your lure, and then the lure size will trigger the aggression.
Really?
Yeah, Doug Hannon was a big fan of finesse. Now I wouldn't say finesse, but you know, 5-inch, 6-inch lures or smaller, like smaller craw pattern. Fast forward, I go to the Raleigh Expo, and I'm walking around looking for that one lure to catch my eye, and then I came across Louis Minetti. I believe he works for BizBaits. He was doing a demonstration of the cutter craw and the BizBait BizBug, and then I was like, well, that BizBug, it fits the profile of what I've been reading, and you know, and I felt that that's what I should go with. And then I started throwing the BizBait BizBug, and then that started working, and that started becoming my confidence lure.
Yeah.
And then I started upgrading to more. I started realizing that vibration on the BizBug, it doesn't kick too much. So now the bass is chasing something with a little more thump, a little more action. So I upgraded to a craw. So I will say that the craw is my confidence lure. That's why I throw jigs as well. The craw is my confidence lure.
Yeah. We overcomplicate it a lot of times. I think there's certain situations where you absolutely have to get a little wacky with some of the things. Like when you fish like the river system that we go down to, like the Roanoke River, like they'll literally eat anything that's flopping on top of the water, right? But you're fishing some of the most pressured fisheries in North Carolina.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, I mean, you literally are fishing.
I just got here. I'm sorry, like I don't mean to interrupt you. Like I didn't know how big this community. How
it's crazy.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. It's crazy. This is a whole world inside of a world.
To the point where I really like, I was doubting myself, man. I was getting scared. I'm like, man, I just got here. Because I came into bassing through swinging, you know. I didn't know. I'm like, I found something that I love. I'm going to start fishing. I'm going to start casting. I'm going to start making content. Like, I didn't know that I was walking into a fishery it's an incredible fishery.
Trophy fishery.
Trophy, yeah.
Yeah.
So, like, I'm sorry, like, you know, I was just trying to build myself up, you know.
Yeah.
I was trying to heal. And
sometimes ignorance is bliss, though. Like, had you come into it knowing what the potential was, you might have gotten super frustrated in those 8 months and been like, I'm done with this. Like, these dudes are catching 3 fish for 21.5 pounds in a tournament, and I can't even catch a 12-inch.
Mind you, like, I just moved here, you know. My heart is pure. I just want everybody to know out there, man, that, you know, my heart is pure. You know, I'm a great person. I'm a family man. I'm a man of faith. I have a good heart, a big heart. I come from nothing. Fishing is my therapy. I'm not here to compete or I'm here to make friends and bring people together. You know, the fisheries out here, this state saved my life. Yep. It made me a better man. It made me the man that I am today. I was a different person 7-8 years ago. You know, it made me stronger. And I feel that because of that, I feel the responsibility to learn how to edit and learn how to film and learn how white balances work and meet new people and help them. Because I'm sure there's people out there that would like to be more better content creators. And maybe I might just walk into your life, you know, and I might be that person to help you. I'm not expecting anything in return. I am generally helping people become better because, again, this state made me a better person. So I'm just giving back, paying it forward, man. Yep. I believe in sheer faith, you know, and paying it forward. And yeah.
Man, where do you go from there?
I don't know.
You don't go?
I don't know. Like,
it's hard to go anywhere.
I didn't know, man. Like, I didn't.
It's just like,
Dude, I didn't know. I didn't know.
You know,
It's so refreshing because it's what we talk, right? Like it's what we talk about. Like this is
I
exactly
came out of nowhere, man.
how the entire industry should be, and it is not, because you have people that talk about wanting to help each other, but the second the opportunity arises, they just want to cut people down. They want to size shame the bass they're catching. They want to they want to bash them
that shape of it.
for finishing dead last in their first ever tournament they fish. They want to bash them because they don't go out and catch a 6-pounder every other trip. They want to bash them because they don't use $300 rods. They want to bash them because they're not using fluorocarbon. They want to bash them because they use a swivel instead of tying directly. Like everything Rick said about the type of person he is, I will 1,000,000% confirm that's exactly how he is. And honestly, since meeting you, I have become a better person, because I was one of those people that would jump in on the dog pile on social media and be like, that's the dumbest question I've ever seen anybody ask. Why are you asking that? You get this mob mentality, and it's like, I want to be part of the cool kids club that's out there running their mouths being a jackass, pardon my French, when that's not the right way to be. And then you finally realize, like, there's one day you realize, and I don't know what that day was, but there was a day I realized, like, this isn't the right way. Like, this isn't how it should be. Why are we acting this way? And then you start to meet people. I meet Ben, I meet Trey, I meet you, and it's people that are similar, have the similar mindset, where we just want to see people succeed. Now, am I giving everybody all of my juice all the time? No, because I do fish tournaments and there's things that I'm not going to share.
Absolutely.
But I'll take you out on Jordan Lake and show you some stuff. It's not going to be my juice holes, but I won't even show Trey my juice holes. Like,
one
You don't
thing,
have no souls.
I just want to say one thing. Again, I'm still learning the state and the different cultures out here. But in South Florida, everybody's connected, man. There's a lot of camaraderie in South Florida, and this is something. Even though I came up in a messed up situation, living in the inner city and a single parent home, my mom can go anywhere and people love my mom, man.
Yeah.
They'll be like, did your kids eat today? Do they need clothes? Like I'm here picking up all these things, and everything that people used to do for my mom and my mom used to do for me, I do for everybody else. I'm a very giving person, man.
you see that in our community, right? Like there's like two sides of every fishing community, even in North Carolina, even in Raleigh. Like there's the side of folks that want to help each other, and there's the side of folks that just want to show their checks and their trophies. And look at me.
Unfortunately, people are people across the board.
Yeah, you can't expect everybody to be like you are.
What I love sitting here talking, having you in here, Rick. Your background, your story with fishing. We know Trey's background, like Pete's, mine. Like we've all got very different backgrounds. We grew up in different parts of the country. I mean, literally, I guess actually no one here is from the West Coast.
That's the only thing we're missing.
Well, I mean, I guess I was born out there, but I can't really claim it.
Yeah.
But pretty much, regardless of the West Coast, like all 4 quarters, like of the rest of the country, like Miami, like up north,
we've got
like,
the whole Eastern Seaboard covered,
exactly,
from Michigan to South Florida.
Exactly. All very different, but we're all sitting in this room for one reason only, and that's because we love fishing.
Yeah,
we love chasing those fish, and we want people to go out and be successful on the water. And I mean, sometimes I think the whole community recognizes that. Hopefully, sometimes people can be a little screwed up and maybe take it too far the other way. But I mean, that's what we should all focus on, is the fact that we're united by just being in the outdoors.
It's also not just that we love fishing. There's other things, but you're wearing the hoodie that says it's not just fishing, it's therapy, right? Like, correct. I think fishing in one way or another has, all 4 of us sitting at this table talking on this podcast, fishing has probably saved our lives.
I agree.
To some degree. Now there's other factors. We have spouses, we have other people who have come into our lives that have helped us, but a big part of that has been fishing. I'll tell you straight up, if it weren't for the outdoors and fishing and eventually meeting Chelsea and some other things, I probably would not be here today. Yeah. I can tell you with absolute confidence that I'd have been in a ditch somewhere, in a fiery crash or something, because I was not living my life right.
I think this is a gift,
It is.
It was given to us, and although we do invest a lot of money, like I can't say I do because I'm just a bank angler, but I do.
You still do.
I do invest a lot of money in my craft, you know, my rods, my reels, this, that, cameras, like, but it's nothing compared to you guys. And I get the competitive mindset, but you know, in the world of bass fishing, if you look at the, you know, the national PFLs or the bass masters, those guys are all outside throwing pictures with each other, you know, like we got to get back to, after we compete, we need to connect.
Yeah, that's right.
Even though you lost or, you know, whatever, man, it's the camaraderie needs to be there.
It's that community, the camaraderie, the fellowship. And that's why, you know, Trey and I both quit certain tournament trails and different things. And just, we had to find ourselves because we were missing that sense of community.
Yeah.
And we landed at Fisher's Man. And it's not on any of those other tournament organizations we fish with because they run great tournaments. They're a good organization, but it wasn't the right fit for us. Right.
Mm-hmm.
Like it just wasn't the right fit for me. And we found, you know, my club was a ton of fun, but I missed fishing team tournaments because it was all, you know, solo.
Yeah.
Team tournaments were fun. I had so much fun fishing with Trey this year. We both, I think, learned from each other. We laughed. We got some of the most absolute disasters ever occur in a fishing
wish you could
tournament.
have been there.
I wish you could have been there.
Oh
I wish somebody that was smart enough to record our would have been there because we did not.
Some memories are meant for you.
But it was the community. Like we found that with the Fishers of Men, and we're looking forward to going back and fishing with them next year. And the national championship coming up, super excited. But like you're absolutely right. If you look at some of those bigger organizations, and there's cliques within the cliques in those as well, like Bass and MLF, but the NPFL. But you're right. Those guys stick around. They congratulate the person who wins. You know, they try to pick each other up for the most part. There's outliers. I'm not going to say everybody's great in all those organizations, but that's what everybody needs to get back to. And you see it on social media. And I think everybody takes social media as a dichotomy of what's really happening in real life.
Yeah.
And it's not like that at all. Like you go out on the water and somebody asks a question. Most people are going to answer their question. Somebody asks it on Facebook and all you get is what an idiot you are and go read a book and go do this, you know.
If people are asking the questions because they need clarification, they need help. So they're going to the people that may have the answers for help, you know, and we disappoint them by acting that way. You know, everybody's entitled to act the way they want, but just be mindful. You know, there's people like me that came up here. I spent $1,000. I caught one. I caught a single bass, and I just felt it made it all worth it. And you know, I didn't have someone to go and ask questions. I had to, you know, use the Google, go back to when I was a kid, and just kind of remember, you know, times where I went fishing and what to do, and try to piece everything together. But obviously, that's why you guys, the OneCast, is your slogan is anglers helping anglers one cast at a time, right?
Correct.
That's why you create these what would you call yourself?
Community. I mean, we're trying to create a community,
right? Correct. To help people become better anglers, because this is not easy, man. Bass fishing is not. If it was easy, everybody would do it. Honestly.
Not only that, but we wouldn't spend as much money as we do to catch a stupid little green fish.
But it brings you happiness.
It does. You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. I want to circle back to something we briefly talked about, and you talked about, you know, you find a new body of water, whether it be a pond, a new section of lake, whatever it is. Sure. How do you approach breaking down that area, that pond, that section of the lake, whatever it is? How do you approach that from the bank to break it down? Like, because for us, we're going to run over it with our electronics. We're going to look at what's in the area there. Is there bait? Is there grass? All that kind of stuff. Obviously, you don't have the advantage, or in our case, sometimes disadvantage of having those electronics. So what is it that you do?
So let's just say that fishing a new body of water as a bank angler. The first thing I'm going to do is make sure that there's no trespassing signs, because we see a lot of videos of people trespassing and whatnot. Don't trespass on people's property. Please don't do that.
Do not trespass on people's property. I'll reiterate it.
Right. So make sure that it's legal to fish wherever you're trying to fish, and somewhere you can park where it's safe. You know, you're not going to get a ticket or get towed. You know, once everything is good, just go ahead and, you know, start walking the banks. One of the things that I look for, again, like I said earlier in the podcast, I start walking the banks. I start looking down and just looking for clues. You know, I might find, a rock pile on the banks. that just lets me know that if it's on the bank, there's a strong possibility that it's gonna be in the water. So I would definitely dissect that area and start casting around. That's one way, is looking down, looking for those clues. I look for overhang trees, insects, worms, forage. They tend to hang out. They don't know that the tree ends there, so they end up falling into the water. And that could be another potential area that's gonna hold some bass, because the bass are gonna be there. They know that that's a food source, and they can be there ready to ambush, those insects or that forage that falls into the water.
Mm-hmm.
So let's say you're walking the bank of a new pond. You're doing just what you say. You're trying to find a clue, and you find a rock pile, and you go, okay, I want to break down this 30-yard stretch of shoreline.
Correct.
What bait are you picking up and going out there with to lead off to try to figure out what's going on under the water?
A soft plastic. It's gonna be a bizbait killer craw, or it can be a bizbait busy bug, or I can use the cutter craw. It all depends on the wind. I always look at the sun and the wind and just the conditions within the last couple of days. Because if it rained the day before, then it's gonna be a pressure situation. I already know that the bass already fed up. They might be full. So I start to throw from smallest lure to biggest, from a 3-inch busy biz bug to 3.75-inch craw, and then if there's bass there, they're going to tell you. They're going to tell you if they want it, if they don't want it, if you're moving too fast or you're moving too slow. And it's like a puzzle. You got to put it together.
Are you using those bottom baits to kind of feel for that rock pile?
Absolutely. I have a rod. I carry most of the time. I have a tungsten weight tied on, and that's like my electronics. I call it the brain scope, because
I love that.
Because I'll cast it out there. I'll cast it 40, 50. I'll bomb it out there, and then can I say that word?
Yeah, you're good.
I'll cast it out there, and then I'll start dragging that tungsten way back. And obviously the tungsten sends out a vibration. And using my rods, my rods are casting rods. They're made out of carbon fiber. I can feel that sensitivity in the rod. So it tells me there's a piece of structure there. There's a rock. There's something, an irregularity going on right there. Yep. So I take that mental note, and then I bring the tungsten weight back, and then I'll cast out there, and I'll start working that area. And if that doesn't work, I repeat. It's a lot of work, but it's possible. You can find a big bass like that,
Have you learned to differentiate between rock and wood and everything like under the water by feel yet, or is that a work in progress for you? It's
a work in progress. Obviously, if it's a piece of wood, if I feel something and it's a piece of wood, I'm gonna get hung up. I know it's gonna be a Texas. If I'm throwing a flipping weight or a Texas rig or a jig, if it's a piece of wood, hey, those are the things. Those are the losses you have to take when you're finding a bass. You're gonna lose, but sometimes you gotta lose to win.
That's right. So it's not that you're new. You're pretty seasoned. You figured some stuff out. What is it nowadays that you're focusing on trying to learn when you go out fishing? Because you said you want to take something away every trip. You want to learn something new. So what is it? You've got your confidence with your craw baits. Is it a technique you're using now? Is it different water? Like, what is it that you're working on now?
So one thing that I'm working on is, okay, I hope this makes sense. So I'm going to try to explain it the best way I can. All right. So let's say I already know that if I fish in a certain area, there's bass there. I already know that. But if I cast a foot to the right, or 6 inches to the right, or 6 inches to the left, or a foot to the left of that area I've caught them at, they won't hit it. It's got to be right. For example, on Bill's Church, when I'm on Bill's Church, the pier, and I'm fishing the riprap, if I don't land it exactly in the same spot, they won't eat it, even if it's 6 inches or a foot to the right. So what does that tell me? That I'm a firm believer that the same way we have highways, we have streets and roads, their craws and forage and bayfish, they also follow or travel some type of highway down there. I'm a firm believer of that.
Well, it makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Because it makes sense, because if I'm throwing here, they don't hit it. But if I throw it right there, that's got to be the bass. They're very, very intelligent. Bass are very intelligent species. They know if you're throwing a 3.75 inch craw and a 1/2 inch tungsten weight, it's gonna be 4 inches. They know that. They know, don't hit that. That's fake. So, and we're gonna, I'm gonna share some of my secrets. And this is to help other people. I don't expect anything else, but to help. It might help somebody else, grow in the sport. So going back to the lanes, when I cast to this one particular area, I get hit. If I go over a little to the right or the left, I don't get hit. So I'm thinking that the craws, they travel through that path, or the baitfish, they travel through that path, and the bass knows that that's a highway where food travels, and that's why it looks natural to them because they see it every day coming through there, and they eat from there.
Yeah,
if that makes sense.
It does make sense. And if you talk to what you're explaining is a lot like what we've heard from very, very seasoned anglers that have fished these bodies of water for 30, 40 years, right? You can watch an angler, like I'm not from here, right? I've fished a lot here, but I can go to, let's just say, X Lake and pull up on the same stump as somebody else that's fished that lake for 40 years. And if I don't have my boat in the perfect position and cast my bait in the perfect position, I may catch that 3-pounder, but that person's going to come behind me and catch that 7-pounder that lives there every single time.
I agree. Boat positioning,
positioning in general
is major. If I cast straight out, I'm not going to land a bass.
Right.
If I cast 45, 90, it just looks natural. I'm sure there's not a craw in the middle of the lake coming straight to the bank.
I don't know if there is. But they ain't eating
Probably
it.
not.
So it goes back to my observations about those highways within, in the bottom where forage may be traveling. So I might cast over here to the left in a 45 or a 90, and I might just happen to put my jig on that highway, and it looks natural to the bass, and they eat it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I take a lot of notes, when I'm out there, and every bass tells a story.
Yeah.
Every catch tells a story.
I never thought about that being like the travel way. Like I understand position. I always thought it was just there was a rock or something, and for some reason the fish position themselves a certain way. But it makes way more sense that there would be, because everything, deer, humans,
yes,
they want the path of least resistance, right? So why would a crawfish, whatever it is on the bottom? I don't know if it matters as much for bait fish that are swimming higher in the water column, but your bottom, crawfish, your larva of various bug species, those types of things. Like there's got to be a travel path that is the path of least resistance. They can move easily, whatever they do between food and cover, whatever it is that they're traveling for. And that never clicked in my brain. So thank you for sharing that.
Well,
that's
again, it's not a fact. It's my observation.
Well, I mean,
it makes sense though.
There's a lot of things in fishing that become everyone's truths, right? What's worked for one person may not work for another. But I mean, when you think of it logically, it makes sense. You know what I mean? Like you can ask Pete when he was down at Lake Murray, and this just happens to do with the bait fish specifically. Blueback herring swim in a straight line, like quick, right? So if you're throwing something out there that goes real hard left and right, you're not looking natural, right? And the same concept you're talking about is if you're throwing in the path of most resistance, most of the fish they're not focusing on that area. They're focusing on those
correct,
those superfood highways, so
highway.
So, and we talk about that really boils down to high percentage areas, right?
Correct.
Once you understand a high percentage area or go back to a body of water like you do over and over and over again, then you can really start to pinpoint that high percentage area and say, this is the exact cast at the exact angle under these types of conditions that I need to make, because it can change, right? Wind direction, rain, all those other things. But you've picked and how long is that taking you? Because I know what you're talking about, and we're talking less than a football field's worth of water that you're talking about right now.
Yeah.
But how long is it taking you just to break down that little section right there?
That little section, my first big bass I caught there, when I was wearing the yellow shirt, and the guy was like, "You pulled that over the rail?"
I remember that video.
Yeah, you remember that video?
I do.
Yeah.
With the older fellas that they gave me the pliers. So I went back and she was recording me.
Yeah.
She was recording me that day when I was retrieving, and then I went back and studied that. And I was like, okay, if I stand on the corner of this and cast that, and every time
So, but did it take you
Took me a
months?
couple years.
Couple years
to figure out that, again, just it goes back to the bass behavior.
Right.
I didn't know, truly knew bass behavior. You understand?
Yeah.
And bass are a creature of habit like us.
Yep.
They have a time where they eat, where they have breakfast, lunch, dinner.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
Those feed windows we talk about.
those feed windows.
I think the message here though is it took Bassin through Rick years to really pinpoint this. This is talking about time on the water, right? Time on the water. It's irreplaceable. Doesn't matter your electronics. It doesn't matter the gear you have. It doesn't matter anything.
Time on the water.
It's time on the water. Time on the bank, throwing in the water. Time on the boat, throwing at the bank. Whatever the case may be, learning and breaking that stuff down. You can't learn that overnight by yourself.
It didn't. My wife is right there. She's a witness. I sleep. I don't go to sleep because I'm reading. I'm Googling, if a bass, it moves from one structure to another. Why? If it rains, why? And
your dinner's sitting there getting cold. Like she's like, hey, get off the internet.
Yeah, pretty much. Get off the internet, man.
Plug the router like Trey does.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do that. Yeah.
It's just a matter of, this is an amazing fish.
Yeah.
This is a beautiful.
What is that book called again? So everyone knows.
Can you see it over there on the camera?
We can zoom in. Yeah.
It's called the Big Bass Magic, and it's made. It was written by Doug Hannon in 1986. This book breaks down bass behavior, habits, and just Doug's experiences out there fishing in Florida. How he's had the success he's had. It's in his book. This is considered like my Bible. Yeah. My fishing Bible. Is that a goal for Bassin' Through? Are you going to write a book? No, my goal for Bassin' Through, I have a couple,
Yeah.
I think I would like to help my community, well, you're doing that. I don't know if Central North Carolina is on the map, like Florida, like Lake Okeechobee is, or I don't know how people will feel if we were to be put on the map, of how great fisheries we are. But I love to be a videographer, an editor. I like to just bring people together, connect people, unite people, and just capture those beautiful moments, man. Like we did in the Take a Warrior fishing
Absolutely.
event. I caught you. It just so happened that I was turning the camera and you were giving 5 to I was walking behind you recording.
Oh yeah.
Like that's what makes that's the thing that I love, is to be able to paint that picture. Yeah. So the videography, the editing, I love fishing, and someday perhaps compete at a maybe at a higher level. So I want to talk about something in Cuba. Bass fishing is very big. Really? Yeah. The bass fishing, it's kind of like in South America. You have what's that, like El Salto Lake? Bass fishing is big in South America. Yep. You have bass fishing is also big in Cuba, and you would like to make the people from your neighborhood, or the people from your country. I was born in Miami, but that's still my culture. You understand? Right. You would like to make them happy. You would like to be a first generation, Cuban American fishing a tournament. Oh yeah, my people's, look, I caught this bass or something. Yeah. So maybe in the future, perhaps compete. I'm not thinking about it, but obviously that's something that I would like to do one day. Videography, just gather those moments, man, and teach. I like to teach as well. Rick, I think you might one day be the first Cuban American Bassmaster Classic champion. I'm calling it right now. Could be. I mean, you're putting in work, like, so the way you think is like a lot of these guys that have made it. You think so? Like, it's a whole different. It's a way I don't think, and I know Trey doesn't think that way. I know Ben doesn't. There's a whole different thought process, and not all of the pros are that way. Some of them just have raw talent, but when you start to talk about them, they think of things differently, and when you pick their brains, you start to see that. And I could see you being successful just because you think differently. You truly are thinking like a fish, and I could go for another hour and a half.
Well, I was just saying, like, somebody we had on the show last year, was a young kid. Well, he's a man, but young man named Will Harkins. He fishes the National Professional Fishing League, and he's just one example, right? There are many out there, but his mind thinks different. He's very respectable in the community. He loves to help people, but he thinks like a fish, and he just catches them everywhere he goes. He won his first event this year, and so you have that same mindset, right? That determination, but you want to make things great all around. So it's not all about the competition, right? And I think that holistic approach that you bring to it, not only just the fishing aspect, but the community at large, like that is what makes your mind great, right? And you're gonna impact. You already have. You already made so goals have been achieved already with Bassin' Through, right? This is a perfect example of that, because when this message gets out there, it's hopefully going to impact somebody's life, and it may not even be in fishing. You know what I'm saying? And so I think you're doing a fantastic job. I know you are. And I think you should keep doing what you're doing, man, because you are the epitome of what we talk about when it talks about anglers helping anglers the best at the time.
I could ask 1,000 more questions, but I think we got a great episode here. We're gonna have you come back because I've got a lot more fishing to talk about.
Sounds like a couple sequels should be coming.
There's gonna be more.
It should be a Bassin' Through series.
We might just have to have a whole Bassin' Through series.
Again, like I love fishing, and it's made me a better person for not just for myself, but for a lot of people that count on me. This state has helped me be a better person. Fishing, the fisheries around here has helped me be a better person. And I'm all love. I love to see the community come together more. And again, in Florida, you go to Lake O or Max Fishing Camp, and there's guys have a success, catch a big bass, and you see the other boats coming to throw them a picture or congratulate them or good job, man. And it's just that camaraderie. I like to see more of that, and I think that's why the universe, faith, the energies have brought me here, and I believe that's always been my gift since I was a little kid to bring people together.
Well, we need to get you out, because I've already hit you up numerous times, and I know you've been moving and you guys are transitioning and stuff like that, but we want to get you out on the boat too, because I think we got to learn a lot from you.
Thank you, man. I appreciate that.
And always providing different perspective is important when it comes to education. You know what I mean?
Sure.
So, because we can get one track minded. I know it happens to me all the time. I know how to go catch a fish, but what I don't know how to do is, catch his brother or sister. And I want to be able to do that too. You know what I'm saying? So,
sure.
I don't have any other questions.
Did you have any questions from the group or anything?
Yeah, we asked them all. Yeah, we asked.
Okay.
We asked.
So you want to recap, just.
Man, there's so much we talked about.
Sure.
Like, just listen to the episode, folks. You made it to this point. Like, we'll gather our thoughts, and I'm sure we'll talk about it on Fishing Friday a little bit and stuff. But I just want to give you a chance to get your socials out there so you can get more people to help. And before we do that, though, I just want to say, I appreciate everything you've done for me, Chelsea.
My pleasure.
The community here, OneCast Fishing, TheOneCast. Having somebody prop you up. And we always try to share your stuff too, but
I'm just trying to share my gift with the world. That's all.
The positivity, though, for you to reaffirm that the way I acted that day impacted you. And we've had some other cases like David Fuchs and his wife Christine are one. We've had a few other people that have reached out podcast wise, and it's like we started this thing with wanting to make a positive impact, and we've done that. And I don't remember who it was. Somebody sent a message or something to us one day, and Trey and I think Ben was in here, and we read it, and we were like, hey, if this thing shuts down tomorrow, we have mission accomplished. We have made a positive impact on that person's life. And at some point they're going to impact somebody else's life. And just you are impacting people's lives for positively on the daily. So how can folks that are listening that aren't following you get in on this positivity train that we're trying to roll?
My Instagram is Bassin' Through. Once you put Bassin', I come up. Facebook is Bassin' Through as well. But when you do it through Facebook, you go Bassin' Through. You have to when you hit search, you got to go to people, because at the time I was new, I didn't know I had to create a page, so I created like a personal
Personal
basking tool.
page. Yeah.
Yeah. And I have a YouTube out there. It's just a lot of old videos. It's bashing through as well, you know.
And I'll link all of that down below in the scripture, whatever description. Like,
And to me, it's not just fishing. For me, it's therapy. You know, every time I stand on our new house, I just look out the window. I just look at the water. I just feel different. I feel that there's hope, and tomorrow's gonna be a great day. So
Absolutely.
amen to that. Love you, brother. Appreciate
Thank
you
you.
coming on.
take care, guys.
Everybody, appreciate y'all sticking on, listening. Go check Rick's stuff out. Links are below. Bassing through on the socials. Be more like Rick. Help us continue to grow a culture of anglers, helping anglers one cast at a time.
That's a good one. That's a good one. Oh God, it's a toad, son. It's a toad, dude.
Let's go. I wake up to a little bit of drool on my pillow, feel like it's gonna be a bad day.